The old house was full of forgotten things. Each corner held a whisper of the past. Liam was right. This place had character. I just haven't decided if it's good character or bad.
Find anything interesting?
A tarnished key lay in the dust. It was heavier than it looked, colder.
What's that?
It felt strange, almost wrong to hold it, like it was meant to stay hidden.
I don't know. But I think we're about to find out.
The house had been eerily silent since they arrived. Now a low, haunting groan echoed down the hallway, as if awakened by their presence. The basement door was concealed at the back of the house, hidden beneath the creaking stairs. It was a heavy wooden door with a rusted lock. The key fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting for them.
Are you sure about this, Em?
Just a quick peek?
The basement stairs creaked in protest as they descended. The air grew thick and cold, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something else. Something unwelcoming. A single bare bulb cast long, dancing shadows on the cracked concrete walls. The basement was a cavernous space filled with forgotten furniture and shrouded in dust sheets. Boxes piled high, their contents unknown.
This place feels forgotten, abandoned.
Well, this is creepy.
Let's just stick together.
A sudden thud echoed from the darkness beyond the pool of light. Emma and Liam froze, their hearts pounding in unison. It could be anything down here. Rats, the wind, or something else.
What was that?
His touch was reassuringly warm in the cold, damp air. Another thud, closer this time, followed by a soft, dragging sound like footsteps.
Hello?
A shiver ran down Emma's spine. She wished he hadn't spoken. It felt like they were disturbing something that didn't want to be disturbed. They edged their way deeper into the basement, following the path of the single light bulb. The air grew colder, the shadows more pronounced. The musty smell intensified, making Emma's nose wrinkle in distaste.
It's probably nothing, Em.
But his voice lacked conviction. They both knew that something wasn't right here. That's when Emma saw it. A glint of something reflecting the dim light. Tucked away behind a stack of old paintings, it was almost completely hidden. But the way it caught the light drew her in.
What is that?
Emma whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her heart. She took a step closer, pulling Liam with her. The glint seemed to pulse faintly, beckoning her forward. It was a mirror. An old, antique mirror with an ornately carved silver frame. The glass itself was cloudy, distorted. But even in the dim light, Emma could see that it was beautiful, menacingly so. She reached out, her fingers hovering just above the cool surface. An inexplicable urge to touch it, to see what lay within its depths, washed over her.
Emma, don't.
Liam's voice was sharp with warning, but it was too late. Emma couldn't resist the pull. She touched the glass. The moment her fingers made contact, a jolt of energy surged through her. The air crackled, the shadows in the basement seemed to writhe and twist, and the mirror came alive. The mirror. The reflection staring back at Emma was not her own. It was a shadowy figure, its features indistinct, but its eyes burned with a cold, malevolent light. Emma stumbled back, a scream rising in her throat. The figure in the mirror lunged, not out of the mirror, but within it, reaching towards her with clawed hands. Emma cried out, twisting away from the horrifying sight. When she turned back, the figure was gone. The mirror was just a mirror again. Dark, empty.
Liam!
Emma spun around, her heart pounding in her chest. Where was he? He was right beside her a moment ago.
Liam, where are you?
Only silence answered her. The basement seemed to press in on her, the air thick with the suffocating dread. Liam was gone. Panic clawed at Emma's throat, constricting her breath and making her heart pound wildly. She could feel the cold sweat trickling down her back, her mind racing with 1,000 terrifying possibilities.
Liam, this isn't funny. Where are you? Please answer me.
Her voice echoed in the silence, sharp and afraid, bouncing off the cold, damp walls of the basement. The emptiness seemed to swallow her words, leaving her feeling more isolated and vulnerable. She raced back the way they came, her heart hammering against her ribs like a frantic drum. Each step felt heavier, the darkness pressing in on her from all sides.
Liam, answer me, please. I need to know you're okay.
Her voice cracked, tears pricking at her eyes and blurring her vision. The fear was overwhelming, a suffocating blanket that threatened to smother her. The shadows seemed to mock her, stretching and twisting as she moved, creating grotesque shapes that danced on the walls. They seemed almost alive, feeding off her fear. The single light bulb flickered ominously, casting her already elongated shadow against the wall. Each flicker made her heart skip a beat, the darkness threatening to consume her completely. The basement seemed to stretch on forever, an endless labyrinth of fear and uncertainty. Every corner she turned only led to more darkness, more shadows. The boxes and furniture took on sinister shapes in the flickering light, transforming into monstrous figures that loomed over her. She could almost hear them whispering, their voices mingling with the creaks and groans of the old house. The air was thick with the dust of ages and the palpable sense of something unseen watching her. Every breath she took was filled with the musty scent of decay and neglect. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of unseen things sent a fresh wave of terror through her. She felt as if the very walls were closing in, the darkness alive and hungry. She had to get out of here. The need to escape was a primal urge, a desperate instinct for survival. She had to find Liam. He was her anchor, her only hope in this nightmare. Without him she felt lost, adrift in a sea of shadows. But the way out seemed lost in a maze of shadows and fear. Every turn she took only led to more confusion, more darkness. The basement was a labyrinth and she was its prisoner. The stairs. Where were the stairs? Emma whirled around, disoriented, her eyes frantically searching for the way out of the oppressive darkness. The single light bulb chose that moment to die, plunging her into absolute blackness. Her hands shot out, grasping blindly for anything familiar. Her fingers brushed against rough concrete, then wood. The stairs! She scrambled up the steps, her lungs burning, her legs heavy with terror. Each step she took was met with an answering creak. The sound seemed to echo through the darkness as if the house itself was groaning in protest. Behind her, a cold wind seemed to rise, whispering her name, urging her forward. Reaching the top of the stairs, Emma fumbled for the doorknob. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in the silence around her. The darkness seemed to press in from all sides, making it hard to breathe. Her fingers closed around cold metal. It felt like ice against her skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of her fear. She threw her weight against the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked from the outside. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Panic surged through her, cold and sharp. Her mind raced, trying to find a way out, but there was none. She was trapped. She rattled the doorknob again, harder this time. The sound echoed in the empty house, a desperate plea for freedom, but the lock held fast. She was trapped. The walls seemed to close in on her, the darkness growing thicker, trapped in the darkness with whatever had taken Liam. The thought of him sent a shiver down her spine. She had to find him, but how?
"Help me!" she screamed, her voice breaking the silence. The sound was swallowed by the darkness, leaving her feeling even more isolated.
She cried out, her voice hoarse with fear. Each shout seemed to drain her strength, but she couldn't stop. But she knew no one would hear. The house was too old, too isolated. It stood like a forgotten relic, far from any help. The house was too old, too isolated. The walls held secrets, and the air was thick with the weight of forgotten memories. And whatever lurked in the darkness with her wanted her alone. She could feel its presence, a malevolent force watching her every move. She slid down against the door, her back pressed against the rough wood. The texture was a small comfort, grounding her in the reality of her situation. Tears streamed down her face, hot against her cold skin. She was alone. The weight of her solitude pressed down on her, making it hard to think. And something wicked this way came. She could feel it drawing closer, its presence a dark cloud over her soul. She had to find a way out before it was too late. A soft scratching sound like fingernails against wood came from the other side of the door. It was a sound that seemed to echo through the silence, amplifying the tension in the air. Each scratch was deliberate, almost as if it was trying to communicate something sinister. Emma flinched back, as if burned. Her heart raced, pounding in her chest like a drum. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, making her hyper-aware of every sound, every shadow. The sound sent shivers down her spine. It was a primal fear, one that gripped her entire being and refused to let go. She felt as if she was being watched, hunted even, by something unseen but undeniably present. Then silence. Heavy, expectant silence. It was the kind of silence that felt alive, as if it was holding its breath along with her, waiting for the next move. The air was thick with anticipation, almost suffocating. Emma held her breath, listening for any sound. Her ears strained to catch even the faintest noise, any clue that might reveal what was on the other side of the door, any indication of what might be happening on the other side of the door. She pressed her ear closer, hoping to discern something, anything that could help her understand the situation. The scratching started again, more insistent this time. It was as if whatever was behind the door was growing impatient, desperate to break through the barrier that separated them, followed by a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the very floorboards. The growl was deep, resonant, and filled with a malevolent intent that made her blood run cold. Fear, raw and primal, pulsed through her veins. She couldn't stay here. The urge to flee was overwhelming, but her legs felt like they were made of lead. She had to do something. She couldn't just stand there, paralyzed by fear. She needed to find a way out, a way to escape this nightmare. But what? There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. She was trapped. The walls seemed to close in on her, the darkness pressing down like a physical weight. Taking one last terrified glance at the door, Emma noticed a faint glow outlining a shadowy figure on the other side. The glow was eerie, casting long, distorted shadows that danced menacingly. The figure seemed to grin, a grotesque, inhuman stretching of its lips. It was a smile that promised nothing but pain and suffering, a smile that chilled her to the bone. And then, with a soft click, the door swung open. The sound was almost gentle, a stark contrast to the terror that gripped her heart. She knew that whatever lay beyond that door was something she was not prepared to face.